just carry this guy. No, kidnappers. See, can you just imagine? They come, all of us come dey inside house. They carry two people for here like this now.
A man was kidnapped in broad daylight, head deep inside the forest, forced to watch Hope disappear little by little, and when his captors realized he had recognized one of them, they made a chilling decision: he would never leave that forest alive. What started as a terrifying abduction in Edo State has now turned into one of the most disturbing kidnapping and murder cases of 2026, because this was not just about ransom, this was about silence, and this was about fear, and this was about a man who saw the wrong face at the wrong time and paid for it with his life. This is the horrifying story of Edafe Ogenekome, a businessman who was abducted from his own home, kept alive just long enough to become a liability, and then buried in a shallow grave like it never existed. Stay with me, because what police later found inside that forest left even hardened officers shocked. It was around 6 p.m. on February 4, 2026. The sun had not yet fully gone down. The day was still bright. People were still moving around. Children were still outside in some parts of the community. No one expected evil to strike at that hour. But inside Utesi village in Udo community located in Ovia Southwest local government area of Edo State, fear suddenly arrived without warning. That evening, Edafe, a non-businessman, was at his residence. With him was Favor Igasa. What should have been an ordinary evening quickly turned into a nightmare. According to report, armed men stormed the area and forcefully took both victims away from their home. Not from a lonely highway, not in the middle of a bush path, but from their own residence in broad daylight. That alone sent a terrifying message to the entire community. These were not criminals who feared being seen. These were men who believed they could come in a village, take whoever they wanted and disappear. And that was exactly what they did. Before neighbors could understand what was happening, before help could arrive, before anyone could stop them, Edafe and Favor were gone. Dragged into the unknown, taken into the forest, and for their families, the waiting began. That first night was torture for the family. Phones were being checked every minute. Every unknown number brought fear. Every sound outside made people freeze. Because in kidnapping cases like this, families are forced into a painful and helpless waiting game. You do not know if your loved one is still alive. You do not know if they are injured. You do not know if the kidnappers are watching you. And worst of all, you do not know if the next call will be a demand for money or a threat of death. Some villagers reportedly said the area had been uneasy for some time. There had been whispers, rumors of strange faces, movement near the forest, unfamiliar people asking quiet questions, but no one imagined that within the community, someone may have already been feeding information to kidnappers, someone who knew who had money, someone who knew where people lived, someone who knew the right time to strike. And sadly, investigators would later discover that this fear was not just suspicion, it was real. After the abduction, Edafe and Favor were taken into the kidnappers' forest hideout, a hidden den, a place where victims are kept far from help, a place where screams do not travel, a place where even daylight feels useless. According to what later emerged from the investigation and what freed victim Favor reportedly revealed, the days inside that forest were full of terror. The victims were watched closely, threatened constantly, and forced to stay quiet under the shadow of loaded weapons. Food was scarce. Sleep was almost impossible. Every movement came with fear. Every voice from the kidnappers carried danger. And it was during those dark days in captivity that something happened. something that changed everything for Edafe. At some point, while they were being guarded, Effie quietly told Favor that one of the kidnappers seemed familiar. He said the man appeared to know him, but there was something strange. That kidnapper had been hiding his face from him, always avoiding direct eye contact. That detail may have sounded small at first, but inside the kidnapping den, it means something terrifying. If a kidnapper is hiding his face from a victim, it often means one thing: he is afraid of being recognized, and if he is afraid of being recognized, then the victim becomes dangerous, because once that victim is freed, the face can be described, the name can be remembered, the secret can be exposed. And according to the disturbing reports that followed, that was exactly the problem. Edafe had seen too much, and one of the men holding him hostage was someone from close enough to fear being identified. 5 days after the kidnapping, a major development happened. Favor regained freedom. According to reports, the release came after ransom was allegedly paid. For the family, that should have been a sign of hope. If one victim had been released, then maybe the second would also be freed. Maybe Edafe would come home next. Maybe he just needed more time. Maybe the kidnappers wanted more money. But what happened next would become one of the most painful parts of this story. According to the report, when Favor was being released, Edafe was told to wait. Just wait. That simple instruction now sounds chilling. Because while Favor was allowed to leave the forest alive, Edafe was left behind, and inside that forest, he likely understood something terrible in that moment. He had already sensed that one of the kidnappers knew him. He had already noticed the hidden face, and now when the other victim was being set free, he was the one being kept back. That was not a delay, that was a decision. And in many brutal kidnapping cases, once the ransom is collected and a victim is no longer useful, the kidnappers ask themselves one question: can this person identify us? If the answer is yes, the victim's chances of survival can disappear instantly. What happened next is the part of this case that is most disturbing. And while the exact final minutes may never be fully known, the evidence, confessions, and recovery point to one horrifying conclusion. Edafe was murdered because he recognized one of them. According to reports, after Favor was released, Edafe remained in the forest with the kidnappers. At that point, the gang had already allegedly collected ransom. So why didn't they free him? Police later said the suspect confessed to the kidnapping, ransom collection, and the murder of Edafe. Report also strongly indicates that because Edafe recognized one of the kidnappers, he was not allowed to go free. He had become a risk, a witness, a man who could destroy the gang. And so, instead of releasing him, they allegedly decided to silence him forever. In a realistic and horrifying reconstruction of the event based on facts, it is believed that after Favor was taken away, the mood inside the forest changed. The kidnappers no longer needed to pretend. No more promises, no more fake reassurance, no more lies about "you will go home tomorrow." At some point, Edafe likely realized they were not planning to let him go. Maybe he pleaded, maybe he reminded them he had a family. Maybe he told the one he recognized, "I know you, and why are you doing this to me?" That kind of moment is often when panic turns into violence, because once a victim speaks those words, once a kidnapper knows he has been identified, fear inside the criminal becomes deadly. Reports suggest Edafe was then brutally killed in the forest, not in a struggle for escape, not by accident, but as a deliberate act to prevent him from talking, to erase the witness, to erase the face that saw too much. And after killing him, they did something even more horrifying. They buried him in a shallow grave inside the forest, a horrid burial, a hidden grave, the kind of burial meant to make a person vanish without a trace, as if he was never meant to be found, as if his family would keep waiting forever, as if the forest would swallow the truth. After Favor was released, hope still remained for Edafe's loved ones. They were waiting, praying, hoping another call would come, hoping negotiations were still ongoing, hoping he was alive somewhere in that forest. But then, communication reportedly stopped. The kidnappers allegedly seized communication, and when kidnappers go silent after collecting ransom, families know the fear becomes worse, because silence in kidnapping cases can mean many things. It can mean they want more money, it can mean they are moving, but sometimes it means the victim is already gone. And sadly for Edafe's family, hope began to fade slowly, painfully, cruelly. Every hour without news became heavier. Every day felt like a warning. Something was wrong, and deep down, many feared the truth. As the mystery deepened, police reportedly moved harder on the case. According to reports, the Edo State Police Command, acting on the directive of the Commissioner of Police, Monday Agbonika, intensified investigations. This was no longer just a ransom case. This had become a possible murder case. And investigators knew that somewhere, someone in that chain had information. Because kidnappings like this rarely happen without help. Someone watches, someone informs, someone supplies food, someone knows the terrain, someone makes calls, and eventually the chain began to break. The first major arrest was that of 21-year-old Abdul Salam Mohamadu. According to police, his arrest became the turning point because after he was picked up, he reportedly began to talk, and what he said allegedly led investigators to other key players in the gang. Soon after, more arrests followed. Among them was Kinde Adetunji, who police identified as the gang's local informant within the community. That detail is chilling because it suggests the kidnappers may have picked Edafe randomly. Someone inside the area may have known his movements, known his residence, known when he was vulnerable, known exactly how to deliver him. Also arrested was Nasiru Yahu, who was allegedly responsible for supplying food to the kidnappers at their forest hideout. That means this operation was not just a quick crime. It was organized, structured, planned, a criminal network with roles, and according to police, the suspect reportedly confessed to the kidnapping, the ransom collection, and the murder of Edafe. Then came the moment that broke hearts and shocked everyone. After the confessions, the suspect reportedly led police and some community members into the forest. Not just any part of the forest, but the exact area where Edafe was killed and buried. Imagine that moment, officers moving through dense bush, community members following in silence, the suspect walking ahead, every step deeper into the forest carrying one terrible question: what are we about to find? Then they arrived, and according to reports, what police saw was deeply disturbing. A burial spot, a shallow grave, a kind of place criminals use when they want to hide a body fast, when they do not care about dignity, when they only care about disappearing evidence. By the time they got there, the body had already started decomposing. The detail alone shows how long Edafe had been lying there, hidden under the earth. While his family was still hoping for a phone call, still praying, still waiting, still believing maybe he would walk back home, but he had already been buried in silence. According to reports, police then ordered the suspect to dig up the shallow grave themselves. That is one of the most haunting images in this entire case. The very men accused of kidnapping him, the same men accused of collecting ransom, the same men accused of killing him, were made to dig up the ground where they had hidden him. And when the remains were brought out, the suspects were reportedly made to wrap the remains in a sack bag. That moment must have been unbearable for the police, for the community, and especially for anyone who knew Edafe. A businessman taken alive from his home, reduced to remains inside a sack pulled from a forest grave. It is the kind of scene that never leaves the mind. Of all the details in this case, one stand out above the rest. Edafe recognized one of his kidnappers. That single fact may have sealed his fate. According to reports, because he recognized one of the men, he was not allowed to be freed. And when you think about it, it fits every terrifying piece of the puzzle. Why was Favor released after ransom? Why was Edafe told to wait? Why did communication stop? Why was his body hidden in a shallow grave? Because to the gang, Edafe was no longer just a hostage. He was evidence, a living threat, a man who could identify one of them and possibly expose the entire network. That is why this case feels even more chilling, because this may not have been a random killing. It may have been a calculated execution. Not because he fought, not because he ran, but because he knew, he saw enough, and in that forest, knowledge became a death sentence. As the investigation continued, police reportedly made more disturbing discoveries. During follow-up operations, officers recovered 2 AK-47 rifles with breech numbers 1686 and 2357 and 3 Dane guns. That discovery tells us something important. This was not a small-time group of opportunists. This was an armed syndicate, a gang with dangerous weapons, a gang capable of terrorizing communities, a gang prepared for violence. And it also raises a painful question. How many more people may have passed through that forest before Edafe? How many others may have been washed, threatened, or armed by the same network? Police say efforts are still ongoing to track down other fleeing members of the syndicate, because based on evidence so far, this operation appears larger than just the suspect already arrested. For the people of Utese village and the surrounding community, this case has likely left deep fear behind, because when a man can be taken from his own home while the day is still bright, when one victim can be released and another secretly murdered, when a local informant is allegedly part of the plan, then trust inside the community begins to crack. People start asking dangerous questions. Who is watching us? Who is giving information? Who among us is pretending to be normal during the day and working with kidnappers at night? But in the end, Edafe did not die because ransom was not paid. He did not die because rescue came too late. According to what has now emerged, Edafe may have died because he recognized one of the men who took him. That is the terrifying truth at the center of this case. He saw a familiar face in the middle of horror. He noticed the hidden identity. He understood something was wrong, and from that moment, his chance of coming home may have already disappeared. Now police say the suspect have confessed, arrests have been made, weapons have been recovered, and the forest that once hid the truth has finally given it up. But for Edafe's family, justice alone may never be enough, because no arrest can erase the image of a man kidnapped alive, murdered in cold blood, buried in a shallow grave, and later brought out in a sack. This is not just a kidnapping story. This is a warning about informants inside communities, a warning about the deadly reality of forest kidnapping camps, and a warning that sometimes the most dangerous thing a victim can do is recognize the wrong person. What do you think about this shocking case? Do you believe more people inside the community may have helped the gang? Drop a thought in the comment section.
Lose the leg.
Don't see this guy now. Don't see how much they worry that one. Just send it to you.
They just carry this guy. No, kidnappers. See, can you just imagine? They come, all of us come dey inside house. They carry 2 people for here like this now. All this, see, they can't carry for kind men for here now like this. And inside this company now, they don't carry people for this area. So